Welcome to the Introverted Doctor podcast, the podcast that uncovers myths, mistakes, and misconceptions that holds healthcare professionals back from living their best life at work, home, and play. I'm Dr. Lalit Chawla, and with each episode, I'll be focusing on different aspects such as communication techniques, mindset, routines, tools, and strategies with the goal to show how to eliminate anxiety, trip-ups, and unwelcome results that comes from ineffective communications. Now, I have a confession to make. It's a current challenge that I'm struggling with, and I was a bit hesitant to do this podcast, but I suspect there are probably a lot of people dealing with this type of addiction, and it's somewhat embarrassing because this podcast is all about being better at what you're doing. But as I often say to my wife, when I can't find something or in the refrigerator or in a closet or when I flub up, well, honey, nobody's perfect, especially me, and I am a huge work in progress. So the challenge I've been working on is the addiction to my cell phone. Now, I have found it increasingly harder and harder not to keep looking at this phone. I find I'm waiting for a text, checking my emails, looking at any Facebook posts, and now I'm on Twitter, and I know this constant intention or desire to look at this thing, this phone, is something I really need to ease up on because I know it can slip away on me and distract me even more. Now, I don't know if you're facing a similar type of tension, but I remember growing up without phones and without any type of distraction, and life was pretty good. Now, I also got to say, I feel I'm reasonably balanced. However, I do find myself wanting to look at the phone at times when I shouldn't be. So, for example, when I just checked it 5 minutes ago, or when I'm out walking with my daughter and we're having a great conversation, but my mind moves towards my pocket and wanting to pull that phone out. And that's when I realize, I've got a problem. Now, don't get me wrong. I think the cell phone is exceptionally handy to get some things done, especially when you're on the fly or if you need to do things urgently. But it can get out of hand easy enough, as I've discovered many times in my life. So I've been asking myself, why do I do this? And why do others do this or have this feeling of constantly needing to check their phone? Part of it is that it is a physiological addiction we create with our neurochemistry, and we get a hit of dopamine in our brain, which is a feel-good hormone, and that reinforces that behavior. But the other part is that I think we feel that there is something or somewhere more exciting or more interesting, more unique than what's happening right now in our present state. And our phone is the place to find that answer, which is only inches away in our pocket. Whether it's new information, a new post, a new text from somebody we know or don't know, a fun video, something to take the boring, quiet moments away that allows us to escape in that minute or even a few seconds. And the reality of this will always have this feeling and will continue to have this feeling until we hit our grave. Now, there is always something new popping up, and that ultimately distracts our real purpose and presence. So I'll share with you the two things I'm doing that's helping me. The first is I consciously and out loud ask one important question every time my hand touches the phone or wants to touch the phone. And that is, how is my phone contributing to my best use of time? Does it serve a greater purpose or my intention of what is happening right now and what I need to do versus what I want to do or to get entertained or to distract myself? This gives me a moment of pause and brings some awareness back into my present state and allows me to reflect and decide. That's the point where I can make a choice. I find every time I ask the question, the answer has never been scroll down social media to see what's happening, text something to a friend of mine. No, it's the answer is usually be more present with the people around me, talk to my spouse, talk to my kids, work on my project, go for a walk, do something better. The whole purpose of our lives is really to create awareness about what we are doing. To live an intentional life means to be acting intentionally and not reactively. And this allows us to be the ones who are in control of our peace, happiness, and joy. And you know what? It's okay to have moments of silence, gaps in your day where nothing is grabbing your attention. It's okay not knowing or thinking about anything, because really it's in those moments of space and silence that's where ideas, insights, and essential things happen, and even time for nothing to happen. It's in those moments we get clarity about what we're supposed to be doing that day, that week, or month, or year. We don't always have to be productive, and that's a very hard mindset to change for many of us, as most of us get our sense of self-worth by what we've done or do or are doing. Now, one rule I have is that I never pick up my phone when I'm eating. I won't answer it unless I'm on call for the hospital. That's because I believe it's very important to be present with the food that you're eating, to savor every bite, and it also prevents you from overeating. Now, the second thing I'm doing again is physically taking a break from my phone for extended period of time and days. Technology-free time zones and technology-free Thursday, especially if I'm at work and have access to a computer. I block out time in the day to check messages and electronic tasks. Same thing with Netflix. You know, it's okay to feel guilty or useless while watching too much Netflix. It's not helpful to make it a habit. TV series and programs were designed to trap you and feed you what the creators want, and that pulls you from what you're really finding, a better way to relax that's healthier and more enjoyable. I'm not saying don't engage in it, but be mindful of the amount you use. I'll share with you my little secret or confession regarding any Netflix series, and that secret is I have no control. I can't tell you how many different series that I've heard people tell me that they're wonderful. People have told me, you got to watch this series, on Netflix. It's awesome. And you know what? They look great too. And I've watched a couple of Netflix series and I've become addicted to them. So I had to put a strict no start policy on watching any new series, because once I start, I find it incredibly hard to stop. If I start one episode in one series, I know I'll want to watch the next one and the next one. The problem with me is that if I start a TV series, when I get home, I'm subconsciously and most times consciously thinking, I want to watch the next episode and see what happens next. Does that ever happen to you? It happens to me all the time. Have you and your partner ever been in the middle of a series and you and your partner look at each other and say, I wonder what will happen next. It's only another 22 minutes. Let's take a quick look. And the next thing you know, if you binge watched an entire season and you've lost the weekend, and you justify in your mind that you're spending quality time with each other, once in a while it's okay, I guess, but hours on end, I don't think so. I don't think, that's the best use of time. Now, don't get me wrong. I enjoy watching TV and movies. That's how I made it through medical school. Friday night was always movie night, and it still is for the most part. But as I get older, I think there are so many better ways that I should be using my time. We are meant to grow and improve our lives and live with more purpose and create things and grow. Little positive moments add to our well-being and dreams. The average person will watch about 13 years of television, and you don't want to end your life and say, yep, I saw 7,000 episodes on Netflix and I'm better off for it. Or I saw all my Facebook posts and I really connected with all those people. I just don't think that really happens when we are closing out our life. You know, I've joked with a friend of mine that one day I want to have a weekend retreat where I take a bunch of people to a lake. We'd gather wood, we'd make a bonfire, we'd have no technology, set up fabric housing, and learn how to cook food on the open fire. And he said, that really sounds cool. What would you call that weekend? And I say, I call it camping. I'd call it camping, you know, because that really has been the best time. You'll never hear kids say, you know, the best weekend, you know, when I was a kid, we played video games all day. You'll hear kids and people say, you remember the time we went camping and we were around the fire and we just, because they had this sense of peace. So I don't want to be preachy, but I wanted to share with you my real struggle. And if this is something you're going through, please email me and let me know how you deal with it. I'd love to hear from you and what your ways you use to stop any behavior, this behavior particularly. What's your trigger or power move? Do you have any tricks up your sleeves? Do you have any suggestions? Because I'm all up for it. I'm all up for learning better ways too. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this podcast served you in some way. And if you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, please share with a friend or colleague and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Share it on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. And if you go to the introverteddoctor.com website and you sign in there, you'll get my weekly emails about the podcast episode that's coming out. I'm Dr. Lalit Chawla. Thank you so much for listening. Let's together make a super awesome community and live a life of greater passion and purpose and create that harmony and magic in our life and in the people we are living with and around us. Have a fantastic weekend. Thank you so much.